Euan Rannachan, man. Thanks so much for coming to hang out and talk about sharks on the podcast, man. I'm really excited.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. When I kind of put the word out for new topics and new guests to have on, when you DM me and it was sharks, I swear the 10-year-old boy in me got so excited. I'm like, man, what is better? I mean, sharks, when you're a kid, it's sharks, what? Sharks, Transformers, cars. My
Yeah.
kids have this little rubber shark puppet thing that they run around with. It is like the universal kid animal, I think.
I think it's funny if you like walk into Target or Walmart or whatnot, you go past the kids section, even the adults, like you're going to see there's going to be a shark printed on something somewhere. I mean, it just
Yeah.
is. Our culture is like obsessed with them. It's really rare to find anyone who's just kind of borderline sharks. Like they either love them or hate them. But it's very like, I think that's really rare to find that kind of this day and age. Find something that people are so super galvanized about like that, but they have an
Is it
opinion.
Western culture that's obsessed, or is it kind of universally worldwide?
I mean, I think when it really boils down to it, people realize that there's something kind of innately special about the animal. It's like, the thing is it's an apex. I mean, people get really mad at me for saying it's like king of the ocean because they say that like orcas are its natural known predator. And we've kind of really only figured that out recently. And I after being in the water with some of the biggest ones in the world, it's you really understand that like you're sitting there with a dinosaur, like it's actually constantly thinking. You can see it watching you. It's not this kind of like mindless eating machine. But that's only for someone who's actually been in the water with them. I think for a lot of us, we're just imprinted, right, with whatever media has to say, like Jaws and all that kind of stuff, kind of programs us to fear these animals.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a respect for them. The majority of attacks that happen on human beings, yes, tend to be, um, it's just mistaken identity is really what happens. And unfortunate that the shark then gets a bad rap, but it's so easy to make it have a bad rap because it looks so damn cool with its mouth open. So
Yeah,
it's like,
man.
it's one of those things people see and it's hard. You don't want to look away. You want to, I mean, if I could live in a couple seconds, the shark opens its mouth right in front of me for the rest of my life, just those like, I would just love to be right there. And that's what I try and make personally as an artist, capture as much as I can.
When you say orca, is that what I slang as killer whale? Is that a killer
Yeah.
whale an orca?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching this documentary of how these orcas were swimming in the water, and they had a seal that was sitting on like a little iceberg,
Mm.
and they figured out a way to make the waves do certain things to knock the poor little cute seal. And my kids are like, "Oh, there's this little seal slips into the water, never to be seen again." I
Wow.
mean, that's brain power right there, more than it is sheer power.
I think that's I've now been lucky the last 2 summers. We've been doing these big animal expeditions. We call them ocean safaris in the Sea of Cortez, specifically looking for orcas at the time. Well, really anything that shows up. But either you can see everything from whale sharks out there to orcas. I mean, great white sharks. It's their territory as well. So, but we've been managed to snorkel with them uh, a handful of times the last 2 summers, and like just I think that's the first thing you're struck with is just how inquisitive the animal is and how much is going on. In killer whales, I've seen them do some really horrendous things to animals, but I've also seen them like playing with people, like not actually physically touching, but like I've been in the water with them where they come up and kind of spin around you and then look at you and nod and they're talking to you the whole time. And you just like as a human being, I mean, I know that the mother is very close watching. It's usually the young calves that come up to us and try and quote unquote communicate. But they're inquisitive. They're pelagic animals, never seen a human before, but they know enough, which is amazing to me. Um, they know enough that they know that we're not prey and we're not the food source.
Yeah, man, look at you. Look
I
at
look
me.
like I know I look like a seal in a wetsuit, no doubt. Like I tell that to people with the white shark stuff all the time. My silhouette is I'm very elephant seal esque in the water. So I think it's be very easy for them to just. But that's how smart. I mean, that should just goes to show you. A lot of the like marine biologists down there that I've talked to about that. When we go out on these trips, we usually have one with us on board, and they said that they really think that the animal knows that by messing with us, it'd be far worse for them, and so that's really the reason that they don't do it is because they just understand that we're just going to play nice and they're not going to affect us. And that's, I mean, it's hard to after snorkeling with them and having them so close to you, it's hard to argue against that. There could be a real possibility that they're really that smart.
How do you keep your calm when you're doing something, whether it's sharks or killer whales and they're right next to you? I can't imagine my heart rate. What is
Yeah.
that like?
I mean, I'm not a overly brave person. Like I get scared at scary movies. Just like everyone else, I think, I think 3 years of being a photographer, I have like a heightened sense of my surroundings kind of thing. I'm always kind of looking for patterns and whatnot. And so I think my brain gets caught up in that a lot of the times when I'm photographing this kind of wildlife, because we call it in Guadalupe specifically, it's a very intense blue color. And we usually say shadows turn into sharks. So when we're looking out on the horizon, we kind of have, in the cage, you kind of come up with um, call it a dance. Like I have this thing where I touch my toes, and it's half to keep me warm, but also half that I'm constantly swiveling around my area to kind of see what's coming. Because obviously white sharks, like their main thing for predations is sneaking up on their prey. So they're very good at going just far enough away from you and then circling around somewhere else and popping up right behind you kind of thing. And
I think that's universal behavior from predators, whether it's a cat or anything that's a predator like that, apex predator knows. They say you put the hat on backwards, it's got the little eyes on it, and it fools the cute cougar. I'm like, man, that sounds like social media nonsense to me. I
yeah,
feel like they're gonna
yeah.
know.
I'll let
But
them try
yeah,
that. I'll
they
let them
find some
try.
way to sneak up on you, right?
That's it. That's that. Well, and I mean, the eye, I think that honestly, even with the cougar, for an apex predator, the main thing you want to always do is have eye contact with it. The minute that you break eye contact, it's got the upper hand, because it's, especially with sharks. I mean, they have senses that we don't, being able to feel electrical impulses through the water in front of them. So they can feel where things are moving. Um, we'll have times where we'll throw a piece of bait out behind a shark and it's 10 feet below us swimming away, and it'll flinch behind it. I mean, it doesn't have eyes in the back of its head, but it's literally felt the water move through whichever electrical impulse through the water like that. And its nose, so it's looking for an animal in distress. That's why they say don't kick and make bubbles and all the rest. You always want to try and have eye contact with it too, because then that's it. Shadows turn into sharks. So we have this tapping thing in the cage, and I'm looking for that shadow to turn into something like that. So I've almost got like a role that I have in my area, and I take it very seriously, because when I would take people out there, I want them to see the animal before they turn around. It's just a bunch of bubbles flying around and stuff. So we're trying to anticipate, but with that, you just really start studying the animal, because you're around it so much. You're doing something that less than 1% of the population in the world ever even gets to do, and you get to do it regularly. It's a really just kind of it was a surreal thing for as long as we did it for. And I mean, fingers crossed, we'll get to do it again. I know.
Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
What was the moment that you knew sharks were going to change your life? It seems like it's a really big part of your life. What was that defining moment for you?
So kind of building off like what I was saying in the cage, like creating art for me, I'm an artist first and foremost. That's how I came into this. It wasn't science and conservation or any of those. Those things kind of have picked up once I figured out I have a responsibility to what I'm doing out there, creating art. If I want to continue to do it, I obviously also have to make sure the animal's first and foremost. So that, I think once that responsibility kicked in, and it was very early, it was the first time I ever got in the water with them. I was like, holy moly, like I've been very lucky in my photographic career to, shoot NHL hockey and NASCAR and a bunch of crazy stuff that it's been amazing. There are things that I'm Blue Angels, had crazy times with those guys, and just lots of really high adrenaline things, Mavericks. But there's nothing like staring a dinosaur in the face and like having it that close to you. And then, I call it the rewiring your brain, when you realize that the animal's not there to eat you. I mean, for me, it honestly pretty much broke me. I remember being in the airport flying home, and I was like, we were living the Bay Area life. Like I was working at a studio in downtown Oakland, and I would drive like 2.5 hours one way, see my kids for half an hour at night, just like, and I was like, the whole time these dinosaurs were just at this island doing their thing, like over and over again. And I'm doing what? Like, why am I doing that? I just want to like hang out with these things. It was literally that cut and dry, and it was so weird. Like I have the word perspective tattooed on my arm over here. And I feel like, honestly, life to me is like a culmination of all these gained perspectives. And that was a huge shift in mine. And I just used it. Like, I moved my family to the countryside like 2 months after that, literally after we've been in our house for
Why
10
did it
years.
impact you like that, do you think? I mean, what was I mean, moving from an urban area to the countryside and uprooting and changing your entire lifestyle from one experience? I mean, what was what were
I
you
think it,
missing, or was there
I,
a void that was filled? How did this happen?
yeah, I think it was more, and I deal with this a lot of times with people that we would take. Then afterwards, I created this company. We would take people out the island to do just this. Is because um, my perspective was so skewed at that time. I think, and there's nothing against the quote unquote rat race, like the 9 to 5, getting up, going and doing like that. I did it for so long, and you could not say you can't live a fulfilled life, but I just knew even my like photographic career, I was just like, it's so hard to quote unquote be a photographer nowadays. Like, you have
Right.
to find a real, now it is as a creator, like to find a niche, but then to also have that niche line up with just like something that I can't really describe it other than just knowing as soon as I did it, like, I need to do this every single day for the rest of my life. And like, people go like, wasn't it the same thing? I'm like, I could see the same shark do the same thing over and over again. And it's like nothing you can, it's so hard to describe unless you actually see it. So I think I fell deeply in love with that part. But then moreover, it was then introducing people to these animals that they build up in their head for so long. Like, seeing the Eiffel Tower for the first time, or seeing Statue of Liberty, I don't know, something you've heard about as a kid for so long, and actually seeing it, it's like it can be a very kind of surreal moment. And I think for a lot of people, they build up the animal and it's like this, either scared or just in love with it. And then they actually get to see it, this release of emotion. Some people yell, some people cry. And I think facilitating that kind of thing for other people was um, even surpassed the kind of art stuff, which is, I didn't think was possible.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about scale of nature, right? And the majesty of nature. And I think that scale goes different things when you see something like a shark, or, for some people, or a lion or an elephant, especially in the wild, right? I can go to the Shark Life or whatever it's called at the Mall of America and look at a shark, and
Yeah.
it's completely unimpressive,
Yeah.
right? Plus a little baby shark, right? It's
Yeah.
a little guy.
Yeah.
But I feel like being in nature in the wild and seeing the majesty of something like an apex predator, or just a monolithic creature like an elephant or something like that, gives you perspective, gives you scale of your own existence. And I think that connection that we have and that it bridges does shock people and does cause a lot of emotion. And I
Yeah.
think it causes people, as you know, to start looking for that as much as possible. Once you have that feeling, once you've been in whether for me, it's expansive places. I love seeing empty places and new things out in nature. And it's usually not like going to El Capitan and seeing that, or going to Yellowstone and seeing a geyser. Like, that doesn't really do anything for me. It's usually being alone in a place, in an expansive place, and I'm just awestruck by the majesty of it. And I wonder if that same feeling that I'm having when I do that is what you're having when you see the majesty and the grandeur of something like a great white shark.
FCP Euro is an online retailer of OE, OEM, genuine aftermarket, and performance parts for European cars. From BMW to Porsche, Volvo, and more, their catalog is a one-stop shop with over 275,000 unique products, including expert assembled kits to make shopping simpler. Actively building out their Volkswagen, Audi, and Porsche catalogs, from current to our favorite classics, including the Mark I Scirocco free-ride car, they are working to have every part you need for all of your cars. Plus, every product they sell is backed by a lifetime replacement guarantee, even wear items like wiper blades, brake pads, and oil filters. With the opening of their distribution center in Mesa, Arizona, FCP Euro is now shipping parts from both coasts, serving most of the country in 3 days or less with their free shipping option. We at Overcrest have been working with FCP Euro for years and can vouch for them. They're real people who are passionate about what they do and the cars we love, while making sure to put you, the customer, first. Check them out today at fcpeuro.com and take advantage of free shipping on any order over $49. Check. Petrol Box is a monthly service made specifically for the automotive enthusiast. Each month, they carefully select items including tools, detailing supplies, apparel, garage gear, stickers, and publications to be sent right to your doorstep. It's a curated selection of the latest and greatest gear in the industry. And there's actually 2 different levels of subscription to choose from. The Petrobox Basic costs less than $20 a month, while the Petrobox Premium gets you even more gear for $39.95 a month. Check them out at mypetrolbox.com and be sure to use the code OVERCREST at checkout to get $6 off your first month.
I mean, absolutely. I think for me though, also I have this like, it's almost like a sickness, like this yearning to create or constantly be capturing what I'm seeing. So I had to physically, whether that's just through years of being a professional photographer and realizing I was there to capture, you know, that's what my job was. I think it's also just like I'm desperate to show this animal to people. So I think for me, I can get caught up. I have to stop myself sometimes. Like we would always joke with each other, like, don't take your camera in next dive. Like just go and sit there. And we would do it, but like I was always the first one to be like, okay, I gotta give me my camera, please. Just have someone hand me my camera, because like I was just obsessed with trying to capture the fish itself and trying to translate it and just show people that, like, you know, not that we're interacting together, but we are living in the same space. And that animal has not once tried to come up and smash into this thing and rip me out of it. And I've just got to hang, like, you can't do that with, I say this all the time, you can't do it with lions or tigers or bears. You can't go into their den and hang out with them. You can go watch them, but there's a good chance they're going to be very territorial about where they are. And these things just know, they know we're not, they've already sussed us out. They're like, yeah, you're just a bag of bones. Like, I don't want to bite you. I want to bite a big blubbery thing. That's what I'm here for.
You even taste good, man.
Yeah.
Yuck. Yeah. No, it's not even on the menu. So
No.
tell me about great white sharks. So let's speak as if I don't know what a great white shark is.
Sure.
Right? Explain to me, you know, what a shark is, how it acts, and what is so impressive about the great white shark.
Yeah. I think the thing that I always tell kids when I go and talk at schools and stuff, I have like they have all these rows of teeth, and I try and like liken it towards, like, I was trying to like relate it to something, and it's so hard to, because I keep coming back to the fact that the animal is a dinosaur. Like, this thing has not changed since, they even think that they were around while megalodons were around. Like, everyone thinks that, you know, Meg's kind of turned into great whites, or some people try and tell me that kind of thing. But that they're finding more and more evidence now. The thing is, we don't have bones because the bones just kind of disintegrate, but we have the teeth, right? And we can judge them off the size of the teeth. So white sharks are usually lone wolves. They roam the ocean. They're very mysterious. This is like the thing. People, we know lots about the other species. We know where they give birth. We know how the white shark has babies. We've never filmed it giving birth or getting.
How is that possible, man?
It's just gnarly, man. There's like, there's a lot of theories on why, but I think the bottom line is the ocean's just a massive place. And these guys like to go, they have this crazy capillary system through their body that can regulate temperature really well. So they can live they can go through cold water, warm water, regulates your temperature of their body really well. So they're just very mysterious. They can go down very low. We've only now kind of realizing how they sleep is, we think they're turning off one side of their brain and kind of going to this catatonic state, and then flip-flopping, turning the other side off. And then someone actually recorded.
It's like me during election season. Just come on.
Just
turn
get it
off,
over
turn
with.
Off this brain so I can just get through this.
I know.
Oh, I know.
Oh gosh, I know. Gasping for air. We're almost there. It's like on fumes at this point, but I get it. Yeah. So they're just very mysterious animals. We don't know a lot. We know that this island called Guadalupe, it's about 150 miles off the coast of Baja, Mexico. It's a rock. It's this volcanic, old extinct volcano. It's only about, I think, 7 miles from tip to tip. It's quite small. There's a small fishing village on the other side. But this island is a massive kind of migration path stopping area for these pinniped colonies. They're California sea lions.
What's a pinniped? That's a seal?
Seal.
Family?
Yeah.
Like some genus species type of thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't,
okay.
I would love to tell you more, but that's what I've been told to me for a long time. But yeah.
Yeah. It's not be a seal. It's be a shark. Got it.
There it is. and there's and elephant seals too. So there's the beaches of these things. It's like, it looks like a movie set when you pull up to this thing. It's like very, very steep cliffs, just years and years of volcanic eruptions. It's like,
It just looks super rugged, man.
Very
it looks
much
totally unapproachable. Like
I tell
nobody
anyone
would ever want to live there.
no, and I tell anyone, like, what does it look like? I'm like, it looks like exactly where you think you'd see a great white shark. Like if you make a cartoon, you draw these jaggedy rocks. It's like the Farallones. It's these. It's just, it looks exactly like where they would be. And these seals have these nurseries underneath, and they wait. They wait for the they wait for the seals to go out to feed at night, and then the sharks stay really, really low because it's really just a volcano, and then it way out 120 miles out.
You'd think the seals would go, I don't know, man. This just ain't the place. Martha over there, she never came back. She never came back. Maybe we should find a new island, guys.
Yeah, I know. And then Sue, only half of Sue came back. I don't know what about, like, she's like,
there she is floating ashore right here.
Oh man, that's another thing that's crazy about being out there in the cage. You were saying, like, do you get caught up in the majesty of it? Sometimes you have, like I wasn't on this trip, but we had a blue whale go underneath the cage. We've had like dolphins pass by. So you're sitting in a real life, aquarium. And there's let alone all like the mackerel that we call them focus stealers that hang around the bait balls, and that attracts like huge yellowfin tuna. There's probably the biggest yellowfin tuna tournament is literally just outside the biosphere that wraps around Guadalupe.
Tell me about the scale of a blue whale.
Just, it's so hard to imagine. It's like I always liken them to the, like, you go into like metropolises and you see those huge barges if there's like a waterway around there, and they have these huge barges that push around, and those things are like really low to the water, and they're just like flat. Sometimes they have stuff piled on them, but sometimes you see them moving around flat. And that's the first time I ever saw a blue whale. It was on top of the surface, and it was motoring, and it was scooting, and something that big moving that fast. Like, I've been lucky to be around a lot of quite big animals in the water and stuff. And like, I mean, they're nothing to shake a stick at. Like a 30-foot orca is still, that's a massive animal. But like blue whales are like 60, they're double that. They're just these huge things, and they move very quickly. Like, you're not allowed to quote unquote be in the water with a blue whale. Like, you're supposed to get in. The only reason you are for orca right now is because they're technically dolphin. So you can be in the water with dolphins, but you can't technically be in the water unless the animals come up to you, kind of thing. So to ethically dive with any animal, you want to be away from them and kind of try and guess which direction they're moving in, and then hope that they come towards you, kind of thing. You don't never get to the animal and drop directly on top of them. And it just stresses the animal out, and you're obviously there's going to be some kind of incident. So every time we've ever been in the water with orca, it's been them traveling, and then we've got plenty in front of them, and they come straight up to us and just kind of very inquisitive of what we're doing, and then kind of move on.
Well, tell me about the ethics of all of this. That seems like a point of debate. And, what are the ethics of being in the water with these animals? And, there's this debate, and I always feel like it's a little weird for humans to take themselves out of the nature equation, because we are also nature. We're just a very advanced nature. So taking us out of the equation is always a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But introducing humans into this environment does it interrupt, the flow of nature there? Is there any ethics that you have to think about?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm saying to the ethics you have to think about. Like, you can definitely disrupt natural behaviors in those certain areas if you do this kind of ecotourism, quote unquote, poorly. Like, if you're just, running out there, jumping on top of animals and scaring them away from their natural, there's a reason those animals are congregating in those areas. And like, if you don't allow them to do so, then, what's the point? They're not going to be there for very long, and you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you're trying to make a business out of that, But on the animals, like, that plays into our favor, because through Be a Shark, that's the company that we set up to do these kind of trips with. We're very, very sensitive to the fact that of those things, and the fact that once we feel like the animal doesn't want to hang out, we've already established the fact which direction they're going. We get in front of them, get in the water, wait till the animal comes up to us. They'll either hang out with you or they won't, and that's, you just kind of take it. And
how do you know when you're at a party or something, someone starts looking at their watch, They're looking at their phone maybe a little bit too much. Yeah, they make an excuse. They say their wife's calling them, but they're really not.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of, when someone wants to leave the party. How do you know? Does a shark have body language?
The shark will just, if it was a shark, he would just take off, but the orca just like rip past you. Like they'll go just below you and just go really fast right underneath you. And that's enough to make you want to get out of the water anyway, because it's quite terrifying.
Yes.
But like, like, and we'll all come to the surface. Usually I'm with, a bunch of other professionals. Honestly, those trips with the orca stuff, like we don't really, advertise those because, you have to be very comfortable in those situations. Like it'll be very easy to mess that up for yourself. And so that's why we're very hesitant to kind of send that out just to anyone, because you have to trust the people you're in the water with as well, because they could do something that directly angers, that's honestly what we're dealing with at this point, where like the babies will come up to you and want to talk and hang out. And like, you just know that mom or the bull is right around there watching the entire situation. So like, while there's been no kind of aggressiveness towards human beings in the wild that we've documented, like I'm under no illusion that this animal can't. I've seen it throw like dolphins 200 feet in the air with its tail. Like I weigh less than a dolphin, so barely, but I do. But like it could really give me a catapult, and like we're let alone the fact that they're not going to eat us, I don't think, but like if they play with us, they could still kill us. So it's like we definitely there was multiple times last season I had GoPro very kindly sent me some stuff to use down there, and luckily I had that, because like with the orca especially, with white sharks, I'm in a cage. They're not getting to me, especially with the new ones that we built. Like we're there just to observe and we're hanging out. Not that they want to, but I just it's nice to have it around you, especially in that area where that's where they're feeding on. They're there to feed. But with the orca, you just kind of have to surrender to the situation. Like as they're swimming directly at you, it's just like, he could just put me on his nose and take me to the bottom and see if I can breathe right now. And you were saying earlier, like, how do you keep your cool in that situation? You have to, because if you panic in that moment, not that I wasn't panicking, because you can literally hear my breathing. We're just snorkeling, so you can hear my breathing increase as it's getting gradually closer and closer. But like, if I was to panic at that moment, I'm just going to become more of a attractive morsel to whatever's coming towards me. So I just need to keep the camera pointed in that direction, honestly, and just try and capture and hide behind that.
Have you had any, guests or whatever panic? Have you ever had to pull someone out of the water and be like, yo, dude, this ain't for you, man?
I've never got to the point where I have to tell them that it's not for them, because we're very good at setting expectations before they're getting in, especially with Guadalupe. It's a almost 22-hour boat ride out there. You sleep and like there's meals, and it's a whole thing. It's like a rite of passage. We tell people it's not easy sometimes. It can be rough seas, but it's
set the expectation for me.
So you get into, how we used to do is you fly to San Diego, and we'd all meet at this kind of hotel at night, have like a family meal, and everyone's stoked. And it's really fun, that meal, because you kind of get to see what everyone thinks. And it's like, some people are terrified, some people want to do this their whole life, and all this kind of stuff. So you have that, and then you can tell everyone's nervous. Get on the bus the next morning super early. We take a bus down to Ensenada from San Diego, so it's about 2 hours on the bus. Get on the bus, get to Ensenada, get on the ship down there. It's usually the Solmar V. It's a really famous dive boat. And then we're about lunchtime, and then pull anchor, and then you pull out of there, and it takes about 20 some hours to get out to the island from there. So you're underway all night, and sometimes the passage is super nice. Sometimes you're out of your cot, body slammed into your cot over and over again, and people are sick. I have guys I used to shoot white sharks with all the time that would just lock themselves in their room and be sick as dogs, like super, super seasick, but just loved doing this so much that they just like, they would just do it. And
just suck it up.
I felt so bad for them, but I also respected the hell out of it. But you get to the island usually about almost lunchtime the next day, and then you pull in. It's pretty gnarly water, but you can see the island itself kind of creates a breakwater from the current and the swell that's coming that direction. So as you pull into the island, there's literally a break. So you see it's really rough, and then it gets dead flat. And typically the current doesn't shift the other direction. So as soon as you get into that cove, we anchor about, I think it's 400 feet off the beach. and it's very, very deep right there. It's like I was saying, the walls are pretty much sheer to the beach, and then it's pretty much sheer after that. So, yeah, and then
What kind of depth are we talking about there?
I want to say it's about 1,100 feet where we would
That's a lot of
anchor.
chain, man.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a lot of chain, and you're just hoping it goes well, because sometimes the anchor would. I've heard stories of the anchor shifting during like heavy current and people being in the cage, and then the anchor literally coming off the bottom, and then the cage is going flat, and then like the boat getting dragged and people on the side just getting pinned because all the
Jeez.
water pressure through the cage. But we luckily never had anything like that. Like that's a lot of people.
Give me a cliff notes of the speech. Like you're out on the deck, you're on the boat, everybody's got their wetsuits on, or is this something that happens at dinner, whatever? Give me the speech you give people to try and tell them what they're about to experience. Just prepare me.
Okay, so it's usually not to everyone, because I would tend to do this like to the individual. There's this it's a pretty gnarly vetting process. As soon as people would contact us, it's the person I run the company with, Nikki. Uh, she's like incredible. She worked in HR for a long time for Citibank, and is like just really good at talking people through situations. And she would just chat with these people and find out kind of what they're all about. And it's not the usual crowd that you would think would be on something like this. Like they're not, big bearded tattooed dudes. Like it's like soccer moms from the Midwest, and it's grandparents, and it's people, bucket list things, people who have cancer, who don't have much longer to live, but like wanted to do this before they die. So it's like, it's just not who you would think. And out of those situations, you kind of have to handle each one differently, because some people are really excited about it, but some people are almost everyone is pretty apprehensive just about what they're about to do. They know either way, it's still an apex predator, and that's first and foremost in their mind. But I tell people, like, usually everyone's just wanting to get the photo. They're like, they want that crazy photo, or they want that amazing clip, and they're so focused on doing that it would ruin the trip for a lot of people. And as much as we would underline the fact that, like, you need to be present, like, if out of all times in your life, of all the things you've ever done, like, you need to fully absorb what you're about to witness, because you can't do it with any other animal, like we've already kind of gone into. Is like and if you really do take these experiences, I think, to heart, like how powerful they can be, is just insane. So I think yeah, I would just tell people, that's what I really would try and instill the most of the time, was just be like, here, I'll help you with your camera, because I know you have a lot of questions, and we can get it dialed. You can have exactly what I'm using, but you can have my footage. I would much rather you just stand there, and I'll take photos of you with the animal, kind of thing. Because like, I've just a lot of experience doing it, and it's easier for me. And then we can worry about getting a photo. But like, through any of these experiences, it's just like, try and be present and fully absorb what's happening, because you're getting told the truth that you've thought your whole life is like 100%, and then you go and you look a gray white in the face, and it doesn't eat you, and you just get to hang out with it. Like, blows your brain up.
Yeah. So is there any kind of safety things, like, hey, don't do this, don't do that, don't reach out of the cage, don't try and pet the great white, don't try and put your hand in its mouth,
No,
don't poke it in the eye,
yeah,
that kind of thing?
It's like that's a kind of a heavy point of contention online. People teaching other people how to redirect sharks. If you've seen any kind of shark content online, a lot of people will tell you it's smaller sharks, and they redirect the nose and all the rest. You want to have eye contact, you want to have all those things, but honestly, with a great white shark, if it's going to go for you, it's going to be underneath. It's going to just wham, hit you. I mean, it might give you a bump, but like, we're not meant for predations. Like a shark, I think it's an 18-foot shark, will take 55 pounds of flesh every time it bites. So it's just like, we're not meant to have 55 pounds taken from
better than Ozempic.
It is quick. It is quick. So yeah, I think it's there's the obvious ones. So we try not to break the plane of the cage with our hands. So you always want to have your hands inside. Obviously no touching. Like, it's people. And that's why the redirecting is so strange, because the animal is so in tune with the environment it's in. The lateral line, they call it, that runs down the left and right side, is receiving all those electrical impulses. And so if you touch the animal, it's very sensitive to that. So it's like going up to a stray dog and grabbing its back leg. You're not going to do that. Like if the animal turns and bites you, it's not its fault. It's, it's just reacting to what's happening. So they don't even like swimming next to each other. So dude, people holding on to them and all the rest, like they probably shouldn't do that. Because you're just, in the end, if something terrible were to happen, the animal turns around and bites you in half, like then the animal gets blamed and, everyone gets the pitchfork out. So, but yes, obviously in the area we go, they're there to eat. We're under no illusions about that. I also, while I tell people to be prepared for what you're about to see, also be prepared for nature to maybe happen right in front of you. Like that, it's not uncommon for like chunks of seal to come swimming on past, or blubber in the water from a predation just prior to us being there. Like this is where nature is happening in full display. It's it's an honor to be there to witness the little we do, but it's like you also might see some real shit. So just be prepared for that.
Is there you mentioned that people, someone with cancer is going to come and see the sharks because they don't have that much longer to live. And it made me just think, well, I don't have that much longer to live. Why isn't everybody doing things like this? Because realistically, the clock's ticking, man.
Yeah.
I mean, is that giving you any other perspective when you see people come and do stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, hands down. It's, I always tell people we have one go on this little pebble. Like we have one shot to do all the things you want to do. And it's like life, it's so fleeting and short. I mean, that's another one of those, I think it's a perspective game thing. I think it's hard it's like kind of trying to tell someone why they don't have to be afraid. It's easier to try and, like, it's so hard to get people to come and do this because of the mental blocks that they have going through their head. And it's such a shame because it's like, it's so powerful once they do. Like we had this young lady come with us. She was a mom from I think it was Chicago or Illinois. And she had like a back issue, just had surgery. She had a million reasons why she shouldn't have come with us. And I remember getting a note coming back. We made a kind of a little film about her meeting the animal and then how she felt afterwards. And her husband sent us a really nice email back just saying like she's like cured of her anxieties, and it's like some physical ailments were literally lifted off her shoulders once she could literally check this kind of thing off her quote unquote bucket list. And I tell people all the time I hate that bucket list thing. Like it's because it to me it's just like a bunch of shit that you're never gonna do, but you kind of wish you always had done. People always say that, like, it's bucket list to do this, bucket list. Oh, it's a bucket list item. Like, oh, you're never going to do it. Like, why? Like you said, you've got the time now. The problem with Guadalupe and white sharks is like the island itself, like I said, is closed. So it's like the places we can
let's
do
talk
it.
about that a little. Why? What happened here?
The
island's closed. Nobody's allowed to do it. My quick dig into this is that they closed it because they want to do their own research. But it's, from what I can tell, I couldn't find any research that had been done. So what's going on here, and how is it affecting? This is pretty deep. It sounds like this is a rabbit hole.
Yeah, it is. It is. I can keep it pretty high level though, because I think
no, you don't have to get okay. Into it, man. Let's hear it. What's going on.
Well, so the island itself, like I described, is this kind of, it's a protected biosphere, which is great. It means that you can't hunt the animals kind of inside there, and there's a lot of reasons why it is. The island itself has kind of a checkered past. There is, like I said, a fishing kind of village on the other side of the island from us. And then there's a tiny like naval base on the south tip, Mexican naval base. But it consists of like 3 boats, I think. And it's not vast. It's a very small island. But if it's like the first point, it's farthest westerly point in Mexico you can go. So it's contentious for quite a lot of reasons. But the island itself, closing it to the ecotourism really affects the animals in the way that we're really the only ones who are watching out to see if people were there or not. Yeah, the side of the island that we do all the diving on is the opposite side from the fishing, and it's 7 miles north of where the naval base is. So like the boats will circle the island every once in a while, and they'll sometimes board and just make sure we have all our permits and whatnot we have to have in line. So they are actively patrolling the area, but it's very difficult to keep kind of poachers out of that area. And it's very easy to I mean, you can, as you come in, you'll pull in, you can point out the sharks on the surface. So like the sharks are, I mean, sometimes, not all the time, but most of the time they're very prevalent in the area. You can pretty much set your clock to the fact that you're going to see a couple since 2016.
So if I'm a poacher, I got my boat. I'm going to the other side of this island where now there's no one.
Yeah.
And I'm basically finning these sharks.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I'm harpooning, capturing them, bringing them on board, and just
taking their parts. You can preserve the jaws. The jaws are, if you can get them and preserve them in time, there's ways that I've heard people do that, and then we'll sell them through the black market, like the rhino trade stuff.
If I think about like a car, right? Car goes to the junkyard, it gets all stripped down, all the parts come off it. It's worth, a certain amount of dollars, depending on what kind of car it is.
Yeah.
What is a great white worth to these poachers as when they bring it on board and they're going to strip it for parts terribly?
Yeah,
I just can't even.
I've always asked
the evil.
That's it.
But
that's it. I honestly, I don't even think it's that much. I think maybe like a full preserved. I know. I got into making shark jaws just because I was trying to get away from people buying the real ones. So I learned how to 3D print. I got a friend to send me a 3D scan of a shark that washed up on a beach in New Zealand, and they had preserved it through this 3D scan. And then I modified the model and whatnot. So I was printing these models so people could use these instead of the real things, because the real ones, I mean, I've heard stories of people selling them for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I wouldn't doubt it. But also, I think most of the time it's just people saying that they caught a 20-foot great white shark. Is more, they just want the photo next to the dead one hanging there, kind of thing, which is a real worry, and people don't think it is. But like I said, the biggest yellowfin tuna tournament is literally like a mile outside the waters right there.
I'm just thinking of the human aspect of this. What is the...
Looking for the best app for navigating your next adventure? Look no further than onX Off-Road. With over 750,000 miles of trails and comprehensive online maps, you can explore without worrying about cell service. The app features trail ratings, detailed information, and a Discover tool to help you find trails near you. onX Off-Road also includes public and private land boundaries, so you'll know always where you can legally off-road and camp. Plan trips with ease using their route builder and share your adventure with friends. With features like route tracking, waypoint marking, and real-time updates, you're equipped for any challenge. Start your next adventure with confidence. Try onX Off-Road free for 7 days. Download the app and start exploring today. Winter is, for better or worse, right around the corner. And if you live anywhere where snow and ice are a concern, you better start thinking about your tires. Nokian Tires literally invented the winter tire, and this year they're celebrating the 90th anniversary of that invention. Their flagship Hakkapeliitta tires are engineered with cutting-edge technology, honed on the world's toughest test tracks north of the Arctic Circle in the most extreme of conditions. Advanced innovations, such as the cutting-edge Aramid sidewalls made from the same fibers used in bulletproof vests, deliver extreme durability and come with a pothole protection warranty. If a road hazard damages your tire beyond repair, Nokian will replace it for free. In addition, Nokian offers a 30-day satisfaction guarantee, driving them for a month. And if you're not convinced, you can return your tires for a full refund. Learn more and find your set of studded or non-studded winter tires. Visit nokiantires.com/winterlegend.
I can understand, catching tuna.
Yeah.
Because that takes forever. It's a huge amount of physical strength and scouting and doing these different things. And fishing is different. Harpooning a shark and just dragging it on board. Where's the sport in that?
A great question.
It's like shooting a deer with a rocket launcher.
Yeah, I know.
What are we doing?
I know. And it's like, to say what? Like, what is it? I'm not saying that I'm not claiming to be a brave person, but don't you think being in the water and seeing it alive passing you is way cooler than having the dead one right next to you? Like, no, it's just a dead one. What are you going to do with that? Like, you don't eat shark. You're not going to eat that much shark.
Is this a cultural difference between Western society and whatever society is doing this?
Well, yeah, but finning is such a problem all over the world. Hundreds of millions, I think 100 million sharks get finned a year, and it's not just white sharks, it's a bunch of other ones. So it's like, it's cultural, but I think the rest of the world, maybe it won't be a white shark. White sharks usually, it's the problem a lot of times is bycatch is the biggest problem. They get caught in these massive nets because they're going after the elephant or
Yeah.
bigger animals like that. So, but I mean, poaching is still just a massive. They have like shark tournaments in Florida where they just like shoot bull sharks in the head with shotguns and stuff. And I don't. It just don't. I don't know why
It
we.
reminds me of the old West when they'd be on the trains
Yeah,
crossing Wyoming, and they would just shoot the buffalo from the train.
plucking them off.
Just shoot them.
Yeah, crazy. Now we don't have them. So, I mean, that's the reality of these kind of things, and that's honestly the biggest worry for everyone who loves those animals dearly is that by them not allowing the ecotourism to continue in those areas, like people are like, oh, you owned a company and you, I'm like, honestly, I'd never made any money. The only money I made off that was then allowing me to go on the trips myself. So it's just like, it was just funding me being able to create art. Um, we put way more our own money into, building the site and doing all that kind of stuff than actual, and that's another whole kill of fish. So I just say that just to say, like, I don't care if I ever went back there as long as I knew that the animals were not being killed and like I did nothing to after. I feel like a lot of times it's us, pointing the finger exactly where they were. So that weighed on me for a long time.
I'm just thinking about there's got to be the reason. Like, what is the reason? Are they being bribed? Like, what is the reason?
I mean, it's it's a fun
We
time.
all know Mexico's corrupt, right? We all know this.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's, I mean, that, yes. I mean, I think that's the only way so I know that after the island got shut, there was a group of people who got together and tried to rent time in a satellite to watch the island. Just like a fly over and just watch for boats that were coming into the area that we could then report time and place and blah, 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 blah. I know that those people were then sued pretty much instantaneous as the program was getting off the ground by an outfit that was taking people to the island, but it also had some kind of legal issues with not keeping their cages to code and some other reasons. And because of that, the satellite program thing was shut down immediately. And when I heard it happen, when I heard they were doing the satellite thing, I'm like, oh, that's sick. That's such a great use of technology to help us like understand.
Yeah.
And I was still kind of in la la land that like, at the time, I think we had 2 or 3 lawyers through the companies that we were working for that were mixing it up, trying to get answers on why this thing shut and on all the rest of it. And then they came out with this report and they kind of stated some very known issues that had been on, like a shark had been killed when it got stuck in a cage a few years back. And that way it wasn't the charter company that we used, but like after that, all the cages were changed so the holes weren't big enough. And like a bunch of stuff happened. And it's just it's strange that the way that they went around phrasing why the reasons they were shutting it just didn't line up. Like you were saying, the research, all the things. I would love to say that we would have heard by now if that kind of stuff was happening. I hear rumors all the time, like people like, oh, I'm going on a trip in 2025. I booked it. And I just tell anyone who's accepting money for trips in 2025, you're getting screwed. There's been zero word like officially from the Mexican government. And I'm not saying it's not going to open then, but you're getting sold, the emperor's new coat kind of thing. So, yeah,
that's robbing Peter to pay Paul a little bit.
Yeah,
or not really, but maybe people are hoping that it'll open and they're getting the first reservations,
Sure.
the first licenses,
sure.
stuff like that. What are the prospects, man? I mean, is it bleak?
Well, in years past, I mean, it's been shut for a few now. So years past, there was just zero official kind of even talks about this space, let alone like even the research, like you were saying, and all the rest. I did hear some influencers kind of bubbling about doing some stuff, and it never panned out. They never went. It was supposed to be last summer, I think, and it never matriculated. So I can't imagine that. I had heard that they had been doing some quote unquote cage diving. I think the Mexican government had been doing. I did hear that from quite a reliable source. So I think there was some kind of, I don't know, some researchy kind of thing going on. But if I had to guess, I would say that they're trying to figure out a way to monetize it themselves. And so they will open. I have a feeling they will, and I think it's going to be quite similar, but it's just going to be a different way of getting
It's just going to
paying.
be all government run.
Yes, yeah,
It's going to be government run. There's going to be a government boat that takes you over there. You're going to have government cheese.
yeah.
And
I
it's
might
going to,
maybe not to that level because they have done something similar to this in Mexico before, and it's they allowed Mexican companies to come in and kind of privatize it, but it is all run. It's just another way for them to run and getting a bigger cut, I think, which is totally fine. We're like, sure, do it that way. Let's just get the island back open so we can make sure that the animals are still there and there's someone still watching. I mean, not that we're only there for 3 or 4 months a year. We're only allowed to go during this window, and we're only allowed in a certain part of the island. It's not free for all. Like it's highly regulated. Like there's highly regulated the way we bait the animals. Obviously, there's nothing. It's a hemp rope tied to a giant chunk of tuna that if the animal does cut the rope, which
so you can't use spam.
not using spam, although it probably would work just fine. They are quite picky though. Like they'll eat giant chunks of seaweed. Sometimes there'll be huge chunks of seaweed floating around, and just like the shark will just come up and eat it.
That's the sharks trying to lose weight.
Little salad, yeah.
Yeah, well, try to lose weight.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to get your fill of this experience now that this is not happening for you? Are you thinking about going and doing other, going to Africa or like Burma or anything like that?
Yeah. So, it did a lot of soul searching because it was kind of, I don't think it defined me as a person, but it definitely was my driving force. And still, white sharks, if I'm honest, still really are the thing that always gets me fired up. I'm very thankful that I have some other outlets. So I'm creative director for Mavericks, a big wave surf competition in Half Moon Bay. So I'm on the water a lot, shooting the big swells coming through there. So I get my fill, and I do see white sharks out there. I've seen 2 now.
That's not anything anybody wants to hear, right?
It's not white shark. It's not being in the water with them, but it's Mavericks is it's the 8th wonder of the world. Like, it's pretty incredible to watch that thing that close. So I try and I do, and then I art direct for a winery in Napa. So I kind of have just a bunch of different creative outlets that I try and cycle around between, whether it's art or photography or 3D printing and sculpting and stuff. But just it's all really just we're possibly filming a TV show in Australia next October, and with white sharks, we're hoping. Really, the whole idea for the show that we're coming up with was based around Guadalupe, but we're going to try and see if we can make it work down in Australia. The problem with Australia is just the amount of sharks. It's very hit or miss if you're going to see them. I mean, it's great clarity like Guadalupe, and you can see the bottom in a lot of places, which is really cool perspective with having the white shark there. But they have orca that come through there quite a lot and scare animals away, which if an orca shows up around where white sharks are, the white sharks can smell them. They will just peace out for a long time, which is what happened in South Africa.
Fight? Is that a fight that happens?
Yeah. So
fight over territory to fight over food?
Yeah. The orcas they're the first time ever filmed. Apparently, I've seen the video, and it looks it's so surreal seeing it. It looks fake, but I've been told it is real. But it's a orca coming flying up and nailing a white shark in the side. And what they do is they grab it by the pec fins. So 2 of them will come, they'll grab the pec fins, and then they pull the pec fins apart and they crucify the animal pretty much. They crack its chest, and then one comes down from the front and just bites down its body until it finds its liver. And then it literally goes in, eats the liver, severs it with its teeth. I've had a friend who did a dissection on a white shark in South Africa that watched up that had this. They didn't know what was going on. The whole chest was cracked and the liver was taken. It looked like a poacher just taking a scalpel. He said it was so surgical, the liver off, and they just left the shark to die. So they just wanted the liver off of usually the white shark. That's what the orca's after. But
that's the orca delicacy is great shark or white shark liver.
That's it. That's the ultimate. And it's
imagine if I think the solution for this would be for the white shark get some friends.
Yeah, he needs
and not
a
be
pack.
such a loner.
That's it. I've always said that. But also, I've got to admit, and this is what gets me in trouble all the time. It's I think the right white shark on the right day, one-on-one with one orca, It's gonna be close. Like everyone's like, no,
Why is it close, man? Come
because
on.
his surprise attack from the bottom. If he's gonna just bite the belly of the orca really hard and comes like full speed underneath him, I don't know that the orca's getting back from that. Like
I know, but if you got two guys that are going to arm wrestle,
yeah.
you don't have the guy sneak up on the dude to arm
Oh,
wrestle.
yeah, I'm just
right?
saying.
You got to set up the table.
Hey,
You got to have some fair rules.
yeah.
You can't start with a sucker punch.
Well, that's how the orca does it, and they use a bunch of them. So one will hit it, and then the other one will hit it, and then
that's not fair either.
Yeah, so that's not 101. So if it's 101, then fine.
How much bigger is an orca than the what's a common orca?
Yeah.
Compared to the biggest great white shark.
You sound like all my other shark friends who try and tell me I'm an idiot for saying this, but I'm just saying, like I think it's like at least double the size. I mean, your average white shark's about 15 feet, like a full grown. I mean, yes, there are bigger ones. Deep Blues, I think she's 21 or 22 feet. Like it's a big animal, but like the average, I think, full grown orca is at least 30 feet. So it's a 10-foot difference, and it's not so much the 10 feet difference; it's just the weight that goes behind that. Like substantial, especially when they're moving at a good clip and you whack something, because that's what they're going to do. They're just going to stun it. I watched orca take down a whale shark last summer, and like the dying blow, as I looking through the water, like 60 feet away, the orca came flying down on top of this thing, and it sounded like a prize fighter, sound. And I didn't know this really because I deal with animals so close to me, but sound travels 4 times faster underwater.
Yep.
And so it's like when it's when you like watch an explosion happen far away, it takes those couple seconds for it to come here. And so it's weird. It's like watching something that was dubbed over. Like I saw the animal hit the top of the animal really hard, and I heard the noise as it did it. It would felt like a video. But it's so weird to see something that size go after something like that. The poor whale sharks are not very smart either, so it doesn't know what's happening. It's just getting confused and turned around and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, whale sharks that was for a long time when I was a kid. That was my favorite shark till I realized it didn't really have much for teeth.
Yeah.
And then I was out, man. I was out. I was not interested anymore. For me, it's gotta have teeth. So the shark wins. It's got way more teeth than the orca anyway.
That's what I say.
Right? I mean, more teeth, more good, right? So what do they say? It's not the size of the fight in the dog. It's the size of the it's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog.
That's it.
Let's go with that for sharks.
Yeah.
It's not the size of
the...
Yeah.
You
know what I'm saying?
I'd much rather prefer
Maybe it's a really angry shark.
So it. And not that I've ever seen them, but we definitely have seen sharks where my friends say in the past, they think the animal's had a parasite. And that's what they say. Yeah. And they say that the animal is more aggressive towards the cage, but also that could be our cameras are constantly sending signals out. And I think it gets amplified a lot of time through the metal of the cage. So it's just like a giant magnet. And it's like, so sometimes I think the animals are more in tune to that. And they'll come up and maybe open their mouths and kind of like gnaw the side of the cage, it's more just feeling. Another thing I found, which was really interesting, no one told me until I started doing this, is that the taste buds are on the gums of the shark. So when it bites a surfboard and you get the imprint of like the teeth marks, it didn't know until it got to the gums, and then it was like, oh yeah, I don't want that, and then I let it go.
That would be really bad for marriage if that's the way people were.
Oh man,
that'd be no good.
No.
That would be no good at all. You ever felt like you needed a bigger boat? The old famous saying. Was there ever a shark that came up that you were just like, oh, whoa, this cage? I don't know.
I wish.
Anything like that?
I wish. No, we're always hoping for bigger ones. We see really big ones, but no, nothing ever like. I've never been in the water with Deep Blue, so I don't know. But the biggest shark I've been around is
Deep Blue an actual shark? That's its name. That's the name of the shark.
Yeah. So we every year we used to donate our images after each. We'd go on like 6 or 7 expeditions to the island, and we would take all our images and send them off to this research center in Mexico, and they would create this book where we can ID a shark. So the counter shading pattern where it goes from gray to white on every single white shark is different. It's like their thumbprint. So there's different spots we would look, like at their gills, any marks on the dorsal fin or the caudal fin, the rear fin. We could look for identifying marks, and then we started giving them names. And if you got a photo of the left and right side of the shark and send it in, you're able to name it and blah, 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 blah. But what the naming does, it does a bunch of things, but what it really does is it makes it more, it humanizes it more for people too, for conservation, which is really cool.
Do you name them stuff like Laser Beam?
some are
Jaws of Life or anything like that?
Yeah. They've got like the ones on, this is Rhett. Rhett. He's on my arm right here. Someone named him Rhett, but he used to eat all the seagulls. So if I ever saw seagulls on the water and then the seagulls were gone immediately and they didn't fly away, Rhett was around. I have a couple other ones on my arm that.
How long do they live that you can name them and see them more than once?
So up to 70 years around there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they have like full on lives, and they're born so that in their like eggs inside the mother, and they're born inside the mom, and then they get actually slightly bigger inside the mom before they come out. So they come out about 5 feet. They think that's the earliest.
Is that unique? That birth? I mean, is that
for sharks?
Sharks?
For sure, I think it's unique to sharks. I think there's a couple other species that does it as well. But
okay,
I've also heard stories of the sharks eating each other in there, so only one will come out, and he'll just be a big boy.
Yeah, I guess so.
So survival of the fittest, like seriously, can you imagine?
Yeah. So deep blue. Tell me about this shark.
Yeah. So she was seen at Guadalupe. I think first documented sighting was 2012, I believe. And she's humongous. So typically at the island, what happens is you have 2 cages in the back of the boat, and then you have one that you put down about 30 feet that hangs down below. So it gives you this really
30 feet.
Yeah.
You're in 30 feet under the boat.
Yeah.
You're not just like on the edge of the boat, like in a cage on the edge.
So we have those ones too. But then if you're really adventurous and you want that other view, is you go down to this one. Oh, if you just wait, it gets better.
30 feet under the water. Got it.
That cage used to not have a door either. So it used to be just like a top and bottom and then 3 sides. And even they had an IMAX cage. It was just like 4 bars in the top and bottom because they needed to swing the camera around. So it used to have nothing. It was just this platform. But the really big sharks, they know the game. They're like, we know what that is. We're not going to come up there and play, blah, blah, blah. So typically it's the younger ones. And sometimes the bigger ones come up for a little look. But so the big ones stay down usually around that 30-foot mark, and they'll do these big circles, just staying outside and finding out, usually playing cleanup if there's parts that have fallen down. But they're not really hip to it. But there's this really amazing video. You can Google it. It's deep blue coming up, and it's in the submersible cage, and like one of the diver reaches out and grabs, it's like the safety diver on top of the cage for kind of fin, but you could just see the size. I mean, a 30-foot shark, 22, I think she's 21 and a half feet. I think that's how big that they say she is. But after that's eaten, I mean, that's easily 10 feet wide. It's when you're seeing it from the side in the water like that, you can't really tell how big it is. It's not until it turns head on to you, where you're just like, that is a huge animal. Like we call it VW bus. It's just like just a cylindrical thing coming straight at you. So,
that's like the beam of a boat, right?
Yeah.
That's just the width.
Yes. Yeah. Huge. So she was at the island in 2012 for the first time. Mauricio, he was a researcher who used to live on the beach. There was 1 or 2 brave souls that would hang out there on the beach, and he was the one who had the video of her. And then the next time she was seen was like 2000. Everyone thought she was dead because no one had seen her again at the island. And typically the males, like the big females, come every other year. And that's the theory behind that, is that they're off giving birth somewhere during that time. Yeah. So I think it was 2019, there was a giant dead whale in Hawaii that some people heard some big sharks were milling around. And actually one of my friends got on his boat and was able to shoot out there. And she was eating, Deep Blue was eating on the side of the whale at the time. He got some really cool video of it. There's this amazing video you can see of this just humongous. It's so fat because it's just gorging herself. So it's just like, kind of looks like a tadpole. It's like, just doesn't make sense, but it's like a giant white shark. Which was amazing though that she was there. And then he sent the photos to one of my good friends, George Prost, who's probably the best shark IDer in the world, and he was able to make the ID that it was Deep Blue, which was awesome. And then a bunch of people heard about this and all raced out there the next day, hoping that she was still there. And there was a huge shark there, just as big as her, and everyone thought it was Deep Blue. But unless you knew how to kind of identify these animals, it was so big you just thought it was the same one. It actually turned out to be a different one called Hola Girl. And that's the one.
What? Hula Girl?
Hola.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know where the names come from, but but it was cool because that meant that there was another shark that was that size, because everyone, I mean, the internet always
get those two together, huh? Yeah. Make some shark
now
babies or something, right?
Now the orcas have no chance. If they're just a bunch of those ones floating around.
Get those two together, tag team. like Royal Rumble.
That is the
baby.
dream team right
Yeah.
there. That is the dream team.
What's the most underrated shark? Like, everybody's always obsessed with great whites, but there's like zillions of species of sharks. What's the most underrated species of shark?
Makos are really fucking cool. Excuse my French, but they really are great. Like they're like the hyenas of the ocean kind of thing. Like a Mako's just like, it's so fast too. It's like a short fin Mako can swim 65 miles an hour. Like that is insane.
No kidding.
Yeah. So like I like those guys. We do lots of stuff with blue sharks down in Cabo now, and you do those without cages, and they'll come up to you and like bang into your housing, and they're kind of like they're very cute. They're like cartoony looking, but they can look pretty badass with their mouths open as well.
What is their skin? What does it feel like?
Yeah, it's just like a shave, just like a rough kind of.
But it's like, it's not like a smooth, like
if you want one way, it is
like a plastic or like a smooth feel. It's got a texture to it.
If you go, it's pretty much sandpaper either way you go. But like if you look at shark skin under a microscope, it's really just a bunch of teeth overlaid. So it's like this armor.
Some more teeth.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, because it doesn't have enough. So like they use that to help them slip through. They're very silent. They're like again, like being in the water with whales and stuff and dolphins, you hear them, and the orca, you hear them way before you see them. And with white shark, you do not hear them at all. They're completely silent. And their skin is half the reason for that, the way it slips through the water. But so going one direction, it definitely it's rough, and then the other way it's a lot rougher kind of thing.
Have we learned anything about engineering materials from that skin? Is there anything like
so funny you bring that
sort
up?
of shark skin jacket or something?
I don't know if it's shark skin. Not so much the skin. I mean, I think they kind of knew that from other animals, but it's been their regenerative property. So the way that they mate is the male bites the female in the gills to hold her, and he like full on, just chomp her.
Let's go.
And
I like this. This is pretty good.
Latches on, and then they do this. They call the death spiral, and they spiral down, and they have to be connected to each other.
Human women don't seem to like that clingy attitude, but shark ladies, they're into it.
Yeah, it's just really
they need that clingy man.
They like it rough. They do like it rough. So this animal will do that, and you'll see it come back. So the animal will show up, the female will come, and she'll just have these like gnarly gaping wounds on her, like breathing.
Just a giant shark hickey
on her, or like breathing organ though. So you're just like, how is she gonna survive? And they literally the next year she'll come back, and you might see the scar a little bit, but it's almost gone. And by the third year, it's completely healed. She might have got bitten again, but like they really do. The females have very thick skin too compared to the males because of this. But I think that's one of the main things I think a lot of scientists look at is just the way that they're able to regenerate like soft tissue damage just insanely well. I mean, some sharks, you'll have permanent injuries and the fin will get cut off or something like that. But for the most part, they're incredibly well at fixing themselves.
Have they figured out anything? Is there any treatments or anything that have come from this, or are they still researching?
I think there have been. I think for a long time there was this big myth around the fact that they thought sharks couldn't get cancer, so they were doing lots of research into that. I think that has since been disproved as not true, and I've actually photographed sharks at the island that definitely look like they have skin cancer in some area, kind of like bubblegummy thing or tumors. A lot of times that's just a bite that's not healed correctly or whatnot, some weird scar tissue. I mean, it's hard to tell really. Actually, it's impossible to tell is what I've been told without obviously biopsying it. But from like photographs we're getting such high resolution stuff now. There's definitely like some things going on. And so I think that people, because that was a mainstay for eating shark fin soup, is that like it's going to have some like cancer saving properties or, some wise tale. So I think there's just as much research going into like how they can help us as in like debunking a lot of like myths that we've held on to for centuries for some reason. I think that's just because we don't know enough about the animal. Like, it's hard to, they're all over. Like there's not one specific, like yes, the Guadalupe is a good spot to see giant ones, but they literally are all over the place. They're in warm, cold, like they're up and down coasts and stuff. So you can find them everywhere, but we just don't, we haven't, the East Coast, Nantucket sharks get a lot of attention and money and whatnot. I know that there's some good stuff happening in California now through Monterey Bay, and the Northern California White Shark Project is doing lots of cool stuff at the Farallones. So like there's more of that, and hopefully that continues. But honestly, I think the easiest way to really get people to get excited about conserving them is to get some one-on-one kind of get their eyeballs actually on the animal, because for a lot of people, they've never even seen one, let alone, I mean, the ocean sometimes, and they have these strong opinions about the animal.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. So hopefully the island opens.
I've got a few questions from the Overcross Drivers Club.
Yeah.
Euan, is there a type of animal or environment you haven't photographed yet but would love to? And is there a photo of a shark that you haven't captured that you're looking for?
Okay, good question. So yes to all those things. I'm desperate to photograph polar bears. That's kind of my next big animal, kind of apex predator that I'd love to go and see. So kind of, it's just very tricky to do that for a multitude of reasons, and quite expensive. So, but yeah, that's kind of the next big one. I think for shark that I haven't, there's actually a shark at the island called Lucy that I've never photographed, and her caudal fin, the rear one that looks like a moon, the top of it's cut off, so she's very noticeable. You can see her from a long way off. She's also 19 feet long, so she's absolutely humongous, and she has like a on the big ones, they usually have a bunch of pilot fish that swim along with them that live off of the kind of ecosystem around the shark. It's like, it looks like one of those giant, like Star Wars huge battle cruiser things with a bunch of like little, or like a Christmas tree flying at you, because it's just like tinsel like flashing around. I have some gnarly photos of big sharks swimming towards me with like up to 60 pilot fish, but she has, I think my friend has a photo with almost 100 of these pilot fish around her. So she would be an amazing one to photograph. And even with her tail cut in half, she still like breaches out of the water and goes for the bait and stuff. So yeah, that'd be my answer for the shark.
Shutter Nomad says, what is your favorite photo of a shark that you've ever taken?
My favorite photo? Is that the question?
Yeah, your favorite one. The one that's like, if your house is burned down, you could take one print with you. What's the one you're taking?
I don't even know. It's such a hard one. Like, everyone gets very excited about the Jaws recreation shot that I took, and that, I mean, it was by chance. It just happened to work out that way. I don't know. There's so many. I literally have a black box. So I live in kind of fire country in California. So I have the house like, if anyone stays here at the house, they know that black box, and it's just my NAS. So like my attached storage there has just everything, because I have so many. I went so many times. I was so privileged to hang out with them for so long. I still find like that's how I put out, the content that I do. I repost a lot of the good ones, obviously, but a lot of the stuff is just deep dives into those trips where I still have, days where I haven't edited much from. So, yeah, I don't think I have one. I have to have the whole collection. It would be a real shame if that ever disappeared. So hopefully, like I said, I'll get to redo it though.
My daughter Irene wants to know, what is the deepest shark and how does it survive down there?
So I don't know which one goes the deepest. I do know that white sharks can go very, very deep, like way deeper than we can go. I know that they just found out the Greenland shark. I don't know if she knows about that one, but
that thing is, the Greenland sharks are wild looking, man. Don't they live hundreds of years or something?
I think they just finally figured out it's like close to 400 years. Which is just...
Yeah, and you bring them up to the surface, and their bodies just, the pressure, they can't handle it, so their bodies get all discombobulated when you pull them out of the water.
I've also heard that as soon as they're born, there's a parasite that bites its eye and just lives inside of its eye. So as soon as it's born, it's just blind for 400 years. Like, can that be true? I don't know. I need to look into that. So
man, that sounds...
Don't quote me on it, but I'm like, and you're under ice.
It almost sounds like some sort of like lore. Yes, the Greenland shark it committed a sin and a crime against the other sharks. So it was banished to the depths where it was bitten by the untold
and you shall not see.
Where it shall remain blind for life.
Yes, you shall not see. Then the rest of your kind shall not see, and their kind shall not see.
Your offspring shall not see.
That's it. It really does sound like that. But that's all. So I was like thinking, this is a parasite. It must live outside the body too the whole time. It's just like there's a lot going on with that poor animal. And it's under ice.
Yeah, that kind of, I think their metabolism must be so slow. Yeah. They must move around so slow. Yeah. They're in the cold, the deep cold. Anything where it's either really cold or really dry.
Yeah.
Things tend to, not decay.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? If it's really
They
cold or
can
really
stay.
dry. So I'm sure it's really cold. They got a slow metabolism, and they're just
I
chilling.
think
It must be really boring
really
being a Greenland
super
shark,
boring.
man.
Don't know where you're going. It's so cold the whole time. Just not.
Cold, dark. You don't even know it's
There's
dark.
a shark called the.
Maybe we could.
I was just gonna say there's a shark called the goblin shark that's always fascinated me. I don't know if you know that one. It's got a weird nose, but like the mouth
Oh.
comes shooting out of it, and it's like the alien thing. Like yeah, like
Like it.
literally comes out like a go-go gadget thing, and that's probably one of my favorite sharks too. But it's very hard to see. You can Google. There's a sweet video of it just eating something.
Well, dude, I wish you the best of luck in getting back.
Thank you.
I hope that happens for you. It sounds like the filming in Australia is going to be awesome. You'll have to keep us informed. I'd love to see that.
Sweet.
And maybe we can have you on again afterward and you can tell us about some of the experiences you had.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. If anyone wants to see
Is
me,
there somewhere where people can go to buy these 3D printed jaws and maybe some prints of yours or anything like that?
Yeah. So yeah, I have a website, euanart.com, EUANART.com.
We'll put it in the show notes for people, yeah.
And I'm Euan Art on all major kind of social media platforms. I'm pretty do lots of stuff on there. So if you have questions about white sharks or interested in going to see them yourself, like I said, it's kind of hard to give you advice on that right now. I can tell you where the hot spots have been recently, but it's kind of flip of the coin. We're just hoping that island finally gets back open, and then we're gonna get a mailing list. We have one going with people who are interested in updates on that. So if you want more info on that, you can go to our beashark.team. That's our company website, but you can find it all through Euan Art as well.
All right, we'll post that stuff in the show notes if everybody wants to check it out, and keep us informed as things goes on. Well, everybody will want to know updates now as we go.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Keep in touch and let us know what happens.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, man. Take care.
Yep.